never shrink from speaking truth to power, nor will I embrace the politics of spin. We need hope over fear. We need compassion over competition. We need to recognize that Canadians deserve a government where 308 MPs figure out how to work together. Whether a majority or a minority, we are 308 MPs, and we are elected to serve the people of Canada, not any one political ideology.
Elizabeth May, our guest. That was a clip from the speech, When You Won.
Yes.
And as you said earlier, committed to reforming really how business is done in the House of Commons.
Yes.
Again,
Yeah.
bold.
Well, there's, you know, as one MP, I think that I believe in the power of one in a society. I believe that one Canadian can change everything for 30 million of us. So why can't one MP change things for 308?
Who mentored you, activism-wise?
My mom. My mother, yeah, my most important influence in my life. I actually think my daughter and my mom have been the most important influences in my life. And my mom, when I was a baby, discovered that nuclear weapons testing was, and this was for military purposes in the 50s, that exploding nuclear weapons in the atmosphere was distributing nuclear fallout all around the world, and that was a threat to children's health. So it was more of a maternal instinct to activism, and I grew up watching my mother take on issue after issue, and mostly successfully.
And what about Dad? I know he was a history buff.
Yes, my dad is very, my dad wears a kilt, speaks Gaelic, lives in a small...
Or still is a history buff.
Yeah, lives in a small village on Cape Breton Island, and I'm very, very fortunate that my brother and sister-in-law live next door. So as my dad ages, he's able to stay at home, which really matters. And he collects toy soldiers. So his history buff persona is now taking over the house, because since my mom passed away, he's decided there are a lot of rooms that don't need furniture. All they need is war game tables, and he's got Napoleonics happening, and he's got the American Civil. I mean, it's a whole nother story.
Sure, he's free to be a boy.
Yeah, he's having he's been playing with. Since I was a kid. We always knew that my dad's #1 preoccupation was to go play with toy soldiers. So that's another kind of role model, which is good.
Of course, and but to know history is
Yes.
so important. And you couldn't have been raised at his feet and not know your history, even though you were born in Connecticut.
Yeah, but my dad's British. So that meant we always felt a little, my father used to describe us as mid-Atlantic, because my mom was from the States, her family was from Charleston, South Carolina. My dad was British. And they compromised eventually in getting us to Nova Scotia when we were kids. Yeah.
And you worked as didn't you have a restaurant?
Oh yeah, my family, when we moved to Cape Breton, my dad thought it would be, you know, sort of a romantic notion, run a restaurant on the Cabot Trail on Cape Breton Island. And that romantic notion is why I never got to undergraduate, and I waitressed and cooked for all of my 20s. And then I found I could go to law school as a mature student, so I did.
Eventually. Eventually, after you cooked a lot of something.
Well, I'm thinking about that young NDP MP who just got elected, Ruth Ann Brosseau, and I can't wait to meet her because she's been working as a bartender and waitress. And as far as I'm concerned, if you do that well, you can do anything. You're a multitasker. You can handle stress. That's
sure, not only that, you live in the real world.
Yeah. So that's been my background. When I went to law school, other colleagues would say, well, you know, what was your pre-law background? Where did you get your undergrad? And I say, no, my pre-law background is waitressing and cooking.
Exactly, and you've gone from feisty to respectable. According to I Feel Great About My Hands, you contributed to Sherry Graydon's book, which is a great book, by the way. But
yeah, I don't mind aging.
Well, that's interesting because you suggest that you do get more respect now. I remember the days when you were actually fighting against toxic chemicals, young, probably in your 20s, I would think.
Early 20s.
And one of the captions said, the seals have Bridget Bardot, the budworm has Elizabeth May.
Yeah. No, the idea that I had anything to do with a French starlet was quite funny, because mentioning before, I mean, I was waitressing and cooking in the summer, fighting the pulp companies in the winter, using my waitressing tips to put together fact sheets on organophosphate insecticides and why they were dangerous. So that was a pretty odd comparison. But there's a fair degree of sexism towards younger women, maybe. And maybe there's still some sexism towards older women. But I've graduated to the level of, when people say I have that I'm distinguished or something, I find it, I think, what, who, me? But being older adds a lot.
Well, but I'm sure on your blog and places like that, or response to your blog more than on your blog, there are people who suggest you should do this or that, change your earrings.
Yeah.
color your hair.
Oh yeah, we get that a lot. And people, I mean, I actually get emails from people and posted notes on the Green Party website to say, why were you wearing that suit? That didn't look right at all. Or why were you, earring, or anything. It's really quite bizarre.
Because I can. I've won the order, I've been awarded the Order of Canada. I'm a lawyer, I've written 7 books.
Yeah, but the thing is, I still don't know about, there's a lot about, fashion I was never there, so I get a lot of advice from friends.
I see. Well, don't we all?
Yeah.
It's just one of those things.
And advice from complete strangers.
But it takes away from more serious subjects like fighter jets.
Fighter jets.
What's your take on this fighter jet?
I wish the politicians who wanted to get the Lockheed Martin F-35s would level with Canadians and tell them what's really going on. This whole scheme, it was started, Liberals put money into it. It's a U.S. boondoggle, and the only reason Canadians are being told we need these fighter jets is not because it's the best plane for our defense. It's entirely because Canadian aerospace industry wants a seat at the table to get some of the crumbs that fall off in building these things. The planes don't exist yet. They're being built in the U.S. The costs are skyrocketing, and they're not meeting Canadian defense needs. It's a single engine jet for one thing. We've always insisted on 2 engines because if one goes out, you want to be able to land safely somewhere. So the F-35s are really a Pentagon military industrial complex boondoggle, which we will regret because the cost for these planes is going up and up and up. And I'd rather we scrap that and said, let's ask the defense establishment, what do we want in a plane? Let's ask the search and rescue guys, what do we want in a plane? And then we list what we want and put it open to bidding and see what plane is best. But the F-35s are just more about trying to get jobs in aerospace. And frankly, we could give every Canadian who works in aerospace $1 million and tell them that they've retired, and it would be less expensive than what we're in for.
So the cost too much. Where are we in the process?
Well, we're at the point where we've said we're committed to getting 65 of these things at a cost of somewhere around, $16 billion at this point. Who knows if that's the right estimate because the price keeps going up. What I think where we've made our mistake is in talking about it as though some people care about defense and other people don't, or some people care about open bidding and other people don't. And what it's really about never gets discussed.
Well, and of course the defenders care that they have the right jets or they have the right equipment.
It's also
to
bogus.
defend.
It's and these are not defense jets. These are attack jets.
Right.
These are stealth-coated. We can sneak past any other country's radar and bomb them before they see us coming. Not part of Canada's sense of who we are in terms of international policy. I mean, of course, Greens favor that we should be back into peacekeeping, that we should have sent the 2 people. The UN has asked us 3 times in the last 4 years to send 2 senior military experts for peacekeeping missions in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where women are being raped and as part of a weapon of war in a place where people are dying. They've asked us for 2 people. We keep saying no. This is Canada's traditional role in the world has been abandoned in favor of this more bellicose voice. And I don't think that's what Canadians want.
Stayed out of Iraq, sort of.
Yeah, we stayed out of Iraq mostly.
Mostly. Afghanistan coming home.
Yes.
Last I heard.
But we have a longer-term commitment to the people of Afghanistan.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
To me.
It does to me, too.
Yes, if we go in, we must finish helping the people survive, strive.
But it's also twisted our development priorities. We used to always think in terms of CETA, and I'm worried about CETA because now we're in deficit, and with a majority, Stephen Harper is going to be cutting places. He's put Tony Clement in charge of cutting places. Well, our commitment to the world to assist in Africa, we've been cutting back in Africa to do more in Afghanistan. So we've let our military priority twist our poverty alleviation priority. We've got to make sure that Canadians remain, and God knows Canadians care about Africa and poverty alleviation, and we ought to be putting the money where it does the most good, which is frankly towards educating women and girls and providing health care.
So much didn't come up during the election debate. Everything can't be talked about. Abortion, we're the only country in the Western world that doesn't have an abortion law, per se.
And now that George Bush is out of the White House, we're the only country in the Western world that will not provide development assistance to health care clinics if they also provide abortion services. So in a country where abortions are legal, Canada's development policy right now is we won't provide the funding if you're going to be allowing women to get abortions. And this is so regressive. You know, abortions are safe and legal in Canada. So where does this craziness come from that we're imitating George Bush's old policy on assisting countries in the developing world?
Well, a lot on the plate, women's programs, arts and culture.
Yeah, arts
what
and
else?
culture got lost in it. Well, First Nations issues didn't come up in the debates.
Right.
Obviously, climate change was ignored through the whole election. I mean, that's obviously, if I'd been in the debates, it would have been different. But there are a whole series of what I call orphaned issues. We really didn't address veterans issues. Veterans in this country have been getting a raw deal under what the Harper government brought in as a, amazingly, sort of Orwellian. It was called the Charter of Veterans' Rights. But it actually eroded the kinds of benefits and the respect and the programs that veterans were receiving.
And not a lot on pension reform either.
No,
I didn't hear a lot on pension reform.
Or homelessness. There were a lot of issues that were lost in this election campaign, including, you know, even a reasonable discussion of the economy didn't happen.
So lots of work.
Yeah.
Ahead.
Yeah.
You're sworn in on
May 30th.
May 30th. House of Commons sits
June 2nd.
June 2nd.
With
Do you have an
election
office
of a new
yet?
speaker. No, there's so many new incoming MPs that they haven't figured out office allocations yet.
Right.
They've got 100. You figure, just imagine if you were in charge of the moving process. You've got 110 people leaving. The MPs were given till May 19th to move their stuff out. Then they've got 110 new ones coming in. So I'm hoping for a nice office.
I'm hoping you, because they aren't all that nice,
yeah,
as you know, but you don't have a big group to go forward to lobby for you.
Well, you know what? We've been talking to people through the system, and what I'm trying to establish is by bits. I'm not just one MP. Yes, under the rules of the House, I don't have a full caucus. Obviously, I'm not 12. I'm one, but I do represent a federal political party that runs across the country and gets a lot of votes. So we're looking at where that can be reflected. It was reflected for Jean Charest and Elsie Wade when the Conservative Party was down to 2. They weren't just treated as though they were 2 independents. So I'm looking for the recognition, not in terms of any more money. So I'm hoping to spend less money than the average MP, because it drives me crazy that we're given free flights everywhere, and I'm told I can fly business anywhere, and the taxpayers will pay for it. I don't think the taxpayers want me to fly business, so I'm not going to do that.
I bet I'd like to fly business.
I'll give you my points.
Okay. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you,
Nice
Fanny.
to see you. Elizabeth May, first elected Green MP.